Okay, I'm back. I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about I'm telling you a little bit about my journey just so you can kind of know where I was. So I talked to you like a little bit about my history and then briefly about the betrayal in the last post. And then this post, I'm talking to you about the trauma that I experienced. And I want to preface this with a few thoughts. This is where I'm going to I want to share my thoughts with you about where I was 3 years ago because I want you to know that I want people I think people can probably relate to that thinking. Um, but I also want you to know that's where my thinking was 3 years ago and not today. And I've realized through a lot of the work that I've done, through the coaching I've done, I cannot change the past, but I can rewrite my thoughts about the past. And so just knowing that is very empowering and it's been really monumental to my healing. So 3 years ago, I pretty much I thought I had it all. I had three healthy children, an incredible, hardworking spouse, lived in a beautiful neighborhood. It was in my eyes like it was perfect. I was recovering from having a baby, but everything was great. And then suddenly in a span of like 4 or 5 days, some really huge things that I thought I was certain of no longer existed. I was no longer certain that my husband loved me fully and completely. I was no longer certain that I could trust my husband. And this is the person that I have trusted the most in my life and leaned on completely and wholly for, the last 12, 13 years. At that point, for the last 10 years. I was no longer certain of our financial future as a family. And I think the biggest thing was like, I was no longer certain that I was good enough as a human. And I had this 3-month-old baby. I was recovering from this pregnancy. And then I find out about, this addiction of my husband that he has. And it just felt like total sucker punch. Like I was already down and I just got like beaten, like while I was already down. Um, I felt deep betrayal and nothing had ever shaken me to my core like this had. And I think a big reason why, like, of course, it's because, um, there's some trust that had been, that wasn't there anymore. But I think another big reason was that some deep seated beliefs that I thought I had gotten rid of kind of just came back with a vengeance. So it's like I had these deep seated beliefs about maybe me being not good enough or not being completely lovable and things like that. And instead of like maybe working through them, I kind of just pushed them aside and forgot about them and maybe, you know, did other things to fill that void. Maybe I leaned on my husband's belief that I was completely lovable to believe that in myself instead of getting there organically. I still remember my first therapy session. I didn't want to go, but my mother in law, she was so supportive and loving and just said it could be a good thing. And so I went. And at the end of the session, she talked to me about self care. And I remember at that time, I was like, that's not why I'm here. Like, I'm here because my husband's sick. And like in my head, I thought this, like, this is not why I'm here. I'm here because my husband's sick. I need tools to help him. Let's not talk about me, right? I totally thought that, felt very justified, even felt like pretty loving when I said it. And I remember thinking things like, as long as we get Danny like the best health care, like let's just put everything towards that so that he can get better so that we can go back to our old normal and things can just be good. And little did I know, like we weren't going to go back to that normal. And, in my writing, I talk a little bit about this analogy, seeing green. And it's a beautiful analogy by Jill Thomas, talks about it at some Mormon conference. I have a link to it in the blog, but talks about seeing the color green. And I remember just being like, yeah, I don't really want to see that color. I was good with blue. I'm good. Like, I don't need to see green. Blue was fine. Totally related to everything she said. Um, so yeah, if you want to learn more about that, go ahead and click that link. But I was definitely in a state of betrayal trauma and I exhibited PTSD like symptoms. I don't know if you've heard of the term betrayal trauma, but Dr. Kevin Skinner, he says that trauma is a separation from self, others, and society that occurs based on what one has experienced. When it happens repeatedly, one can enter a hypervigilant state, which can lead to insomnia. I experienced that. We can become separated from our mindfulness, our thoughts, and our body sensations. This was totally me. Like growing up in the past, it's just like this mechanism, this part of me. Like I would disassociate from my body to get through like a really hard workout or to avoid negative emotions or anything like that. If I didn't want to feel negative emotions, I would avoid it through doing things that helped me feel productive, or I would avoid it through doing things that I knew I was really good at, or like I said, with workouts. So instinctively, when my husband came and talked to me, like I instinctively just dissociated completely from my body. And it's because I didn't have the tools to feel the pain and process the pain that I was feeling. Thankfully, I had an amazing therapist. Her name is Kathy. She's specialized and she helped me do something that I couldn't do for myself at the time. She helped me process the pain and process and release the trauma that I had. I still had a long way to go in my recovery, but I was making progress and making steps. And it's interesting because, I thought I'd lost everything in my life. And looking back, when I think about my past, I still had it all. I had 3 healthy children. I had a hardworking human husband and a beautiful home. And I still had it all. And it was just my thoughts about it that created my feelings about it, right? So, and I can say today that my husband and I and our family, like we've created this new normal that I love, and I love even more than what I knew at that time. And, I thought blue was great. Seeing color blue was great. And then I got thrust into yellow. I didn't like the yellow. And now I do feel like I'm seeing green, and it's beautiful. It's new, and it's taken time to get here. But my point in sharing all of this with you is at the time that all this happened, there was not a lot of hope for me in my life. And um, I cling to any ounce of hope that I could find. And I just want you to know there is hope. Life can get better. It will get better. And there's so many tools out there that you can learn so that you can just learn to be. Right now, it might just be learning to be okay. It actually might even just be learning how to survive. And then you might learn to be okay. And then you might get to a place where you want to be more than okay. And I just want you to know that's possible. And I want you to know that I'm in a place where I feel like I'm thriving and I'm like loving my life again. And 3 years ago, I would have never believed that could have been possible. So I just wanted to share that with you because it is possible. Okay. Take care. Bye.